Welcome to English Speaking Corner, your quiet space to practice real English out loud.
Today, we are going to break the most common, silent habit that is secretly ruining your English confidence.
Picture this. It is Tuesday morning by the coffee machine. A colleague is telling a fast story. They use a word you do not know, and instead of stopping them, your brain freezes. You just raise your eyebrows, smile, and nod, thinking, please do not ask me a question.
I know that panic perfectly. I once nodded and smiled for 10 minutes straight at a networking event, only to realize they were asking me to volunteer for a massive weekend project. It was mortifying.
If you are tired of faking it, stay with us. Today, you will learn the 3 lifeline phrases to politely pause any conversation, and we're going to actually practice interrupting each other out loud.
I think every single person listening right now has experienced that exact coffee machine moment. Your heart is racing, the other person is talking so quickly, and you just slip into survival mode. You become the ultimate fake listener.
Exactly. And it's so exhausting. We spend so much energy trying to look like we understand, manipulating our facial expressions, laughing when the other person laughs, looking serious when they look serious. But inside, there's just complete panic. You're not actually in the conversation anymore. You're just trying to survive until they walk away.
Wow, that moment hit me like a wave when I was at that networking event I mentioned earlier. I was holding this tiny plastic cup of water, completely frozen in place, while the senior manager just kept talking faster and faster. My brain had stopped translating about 2 minutes into the conversation, but my ego would not let me stop him. I just kept giving a little laugh every time he paused, saying things like, "Wow, yeah, absolutely."
It's amazing how convincing we can be when we're terrified. We develop this automatic reflex to protect ourselves from looking foolish. But what happened at the end of that conversation?
Well, I thought I was getting away with it. I thought I looked like a highly engaged, attentive listener. But then he stopped, looked me right in the eye, and said, "So can we count on you to lead the Saturday session?" I just stared at him. I suddenly realized I had agreed to something completely unknown just because I was too embarrassed to say that I did not understand. I had to awkwardly backtrack, apologize, and admit I had missed the entire point of his story. It was 10 times more embarrassing than if I had just stopped him in the first 30 seconds.
That is the ultimate danger of the fake smile and nod. You're building a house of cards, and eventually somebody's going to ask a direct question and the whole thing comes crashing down. This happens because we naturally lose the thread of the conversation.
Lose the thread. That's a really interesting phrase. What do you mean by losing the thread exactly?
Imagine you're walking through a dark, complicated maze with a guide. To make sure you don't get lost, the guide hands you a long piece of string, a thread, to hold onto while they walk ahead of you. As long as you hold the thread, you can follow their path. But if they start running and the string slips out of your fingers, you've lost the thread. You're standing alone in the dark and you have no idea where the conversation is going anymore.
That's true. That's exactly how it feels. The other person is still talking, still walking forward through the maze, but you're left completely behind. The words just turn into meaningless sounds. Why are we so afraid to just tell the guy that we dropped a string?
It comes down to a psychological barrier called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is this heavy, persistent feeling that you're a fake, that you don't belong in the room, and that any second now, everyone is going to discover that your English is terrible and you're a complete fraud.
Wow, looking back, I realized I wasn't as lost as I thought in my English journey, but the imposter syndrome made me feel like an absolute beginner every time I didn't know a single vocabulary word. It makes you believe to be a good English speaker, you have to understand 100% of the words being spoken at all times.
Which is a complete myth. Think about conversations in your native language. Do you hear and understand every single word every person says to you? Of course not. People mumble, trucks drive by, people use strange idioms, or maybe you just zone out for a second. Native speakers interrupt each other all the time to ask for clarification.
Exactly. Native speakers stop each other constantly. They say, "Wait, what did you say?" Or, "Hold on, I missed that." But when we're speaking a second language, we view our lack of understanding as a personal failure. We think asking for repetition makes us look stupid or incapable.
But the reality is the exact opposite. When you stop a native speaker and ask them to clarify something, you're actually giving them a massive compliment. You're telling them, what you're saying is so important to me that I want to make sure I understand it perfectly. Faking it creates distance. Asking for clarification creates deep connection.
That shifts the entire perspective. So we are not apologizing for being bad at English. We are proving that we are incredibly engaged listeners. But how do we actually do it? It feels so rude to just shout, "Stop, I do not understand."
It definitely feels aggressive if you use the wrong words. If you just say, "Repeat, please," or "What did you say?" it can sound very blunt. It can sound like a police officer interrogating a suspect. To interrupt politely, we need to use a specific set of tools. We call these lifeline phrases. They are soft, polite, and completely natural.
I love the idea of a lifeline, like throwing a rope to someone who is drowning in a fast conversation. What is the very first lifeline phrase we can use?
The first lifeline is perfect for when the other person is speaking too quickly or mumbling. You simply say, "Sorry, I didn't quite catch that."
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. I hear people say that all the time. But why do we use the word catch? We are talking about words, not baseballs.
It is a great metaphor to keep in your mind. Think of spoken communication like playing a game of catch. The speaker is throwing words to you. If a native speaker throws a baseball at you at 100 miles an hour and it flies right past your head, it is not your fault that you dropped it. They threw it too fast. Spoken English is the same. They threw the words too quickly. You did not catch them. You are just politely asking them to throw the ball again, maybe a little softer this time.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. You're not saying my brain is too slow to understand your brilliant words. You're just saying the delivery was a bit too fast for me to physically catch it. And I notice you added the word quite in there. I didn't quite catch that. Why is that word important?
That is a softening word. If you just say, "I didn't catch that," it can sound a little direct. By adding the word quite, you are minimizing the interruption. You are making it sound like a tiny, insignificant error. "Sorry, I didn't quite catch that." It is gentle, it is polite, and it immediately prompts the other person to repeat their last sentence more clearly, and usually a bit slower.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. You're not saying my brain is too slow to understand your brilliant words. You're just saying the delivery was a bit too fast for me to physically catch it. And I noticed you added the word quite in there. I didn't quite catch that. Why is that word important?
That is a softening word. If you just say, "I didn't catch that," it can sound a little direct. By adding the word quite, you are minimizing the interruption. You are making it sound like a tiny, insignificant error. "Sorry, I didn't quite catch that." It is gentle, it is polite, and it immediately prompts the other person to repeat their last sentence more clearly, and usually a bit slower.
It feels so much safer than saying, "I do not understand you." Before we move on to the second phrase, I want to quickly remind our listeners that if you are finding this calm, step-by-step approach helpful for your confidence, make sure to hit the subscribe button right now. We create this quiet study space for you every single week so you can stop stressing and start actually speaking.
Absolutely. We want this channel to be your weekly safe zone. Now, let us look at the second lifeline phrase. This one is incredibly useful in a professional environment, like an office meeting or a Zoom call. The phrase is, "Could you run that by me one more time?"
Could you run that by me one more time? I really like the rhythm of that sentence, but run that by me is another interesting visual. We are not running anywhere. What does it mean to run something by someone?
Picture a factory with a conveyor belt. Products are moving along the belt, running past the inspector. If a product moves past you too quickly and you need to look at it again, you ask the machine operator to bring it back and run it past you one more time. When you say, "Could you run that by me again?" you are asking the speaker to take the information they just presented and put it back on the conversational conveyor belt so you can inspect it one more time.
Wow, they were full of growth when they invented these idioms. It makes so much sense when you visualize it. It sounds very professional. You are treating their words like important data that needs to be carefully reviewed.
Exactly. And I want you to notice the grammar we are using here. We are using the word could. Could you run that by me? We use modal verbs like could or would when we want to make a request feel light and polite.
Let's explore that for a second. What happens if I do not use could? What if I'm in a meeting and my manager explains a new software process, and I just look at him and say, "Run that by me again," or even worse, repeat what you just said?
If you say, repeat what you just said, you are giving a command. You are acting like the boss of the conversation. In English culture, giving direct commands to people you do not know well or to people above you in the workplace creates immediate friction. The listener will feel defensive. But when you add the modal verb could you, it transforms the command into a gentle invitation. You are giving them the option to help you rather than ordering them to do it.
That is true. It's a tiny grammatical shift, but it completely changes the emotional temperature of the room. Could you run that by me one more time? It sounds collaborative. It sounds like we're a team working together to ensure clear communication.
It really does. Now, let us talk about the third lifeline. Sometimes you do not drop the thread completely. Sometimes you catch the first half of the baseball, but you drop the second half. You understand the beginning of the story, but the end confuses you. In this case, you do not want them to repeat the entire 10-minute story.
Exactly. That will be exhausting for both people. If someone gives me 3 instructions and I understand the first 2, I do not want them to start over from the very beginning. I just need the missing piece of the puzzle. What do we say in that situation?
We use the confirmation check. You pause the conversation, hold up your hand slightly, and say, just to make sure I understand, followed by a summary of what you did hear.
Just to make sure I understand. That is a fantastic opening. It shows that you have been paying attention, it proves that you are a good listener, and it sets a boundary.
Yes. Let us look at an example. Imagine your boss walks up to your desk and says, I need you to email the client the new proposal, make sure the financial attachments are included, and then call the vendor to confirm the shipping dates before lunch. That is a lot of fast information. Maybe you caught the email part, but you lost the thread on the phone call part.
If I'm in my panic mode, I would just nod and say, sure, no problem. And then the boss walks away and I'm sitting at my desk sweating, wondering who I'm supposed to call and what I'm supposed to confirm.
Exactly. And that is how mistakes happen. Instead, you use the lifeline. The moment the boss finishes speaking, you say, just to make sure I understand, you want me to email the client the proposal with the financials, but who did you want me to call before lunch?
That is so powerful. You are taking complete control of the situation. You are demonstrating competence by summarizing the first half of the instructions, which proves your English is solid, and then you are surgically asking for the exact piece of information you missed.
It is the most confident way to be confused. You're owning your confusion rather than letting your confusion own you. You're saying, I'm 90% of the way there, just help me cross the finish line.
I wish someone had given me these 3 phrases before my first office job. It would have saved me so many awkward moments and so much anxiety. But knowing the phrases is only half the battle, right? Knowing the words in your head does not mean your mouth will actually say them when the pressure is on.
That is exactly right. The panic reflex is deeply wired into our brains. When the fast conversation happens, your brain will automatically try to trigger the fake smile and nod. To break that reflex, you have to build physical muscle memory in your mouth. You have to train your voice to interrupt.
So how do we train for a high-pressure situation when we're just sitting here listening to a podcast?
We're going to build a simulator right now. This is the viewer activation portion of our episode. We're going to create a safe, controlled environment for you to practice the terrifying act of interrupting someone out loud.
I love this, a conversational flight simulator. If you crash here, nobody gets hurt. How does it work?
I'm going to read a sentence very fast. I'm going to intentionally mumble my words and make it difficult to understand. When I stop speaking, there will be a silent pause for exactly 4 seconds. During that silence, I want you, the listener, to physically speak out loud wherever you are. I want you to say, sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
So the listener actually has to talk back to the audio. They have to break the silence in their own room.
Exactly. Let us do a demonstration first so everyone understands the rhythm. Mark, you be the listener for this first round. I'm going to speak fast, and the moment I stop, you jump in with the lifeline phrase. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Throw the fast baseball at me.
Here we go. So anyway, I was driving down the highway yesterday and this massive truck just completely cuts me off without even using a turn signal, and I had to slam on my brakes so hard my coffee spilled everywhere.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Perfect. Do you see how clean that was? Mark did not apologize for his English. He did not look panicked. He just firmly and politely stopped the fast train. Now it's your turn. Yes, you listening right now with your headphones on. I'm going to do it again. The moment I finish my messy, fast sentence, you have 4 seconds to say out loud, "Sorry, I didn't quite catch that." Take a deep breath. Here we go. So anyway, I was looking at the quarterly reports from the marketing team, and it seems like the numbers from November are completely misaligned with the projections we made back in the summer. Excellent! If you just spoke into the empty space in your room, I'm so proud of you. You just broke the fake nod reflex.
It feels strange the first time you do it, doesn't it? It feels like you are breaking a social rule by interrupting, but you have to push through that initial discomfort. Let us do another round. Let us practice the professional phrase this time.
Great idea. The phrase for this round is, "Could you run that by me one more time?" Remember, the tone should be calm and collaborative. Mark, do you want to be the fast speaker this time?
I would love to. I am going to pretend to be a manager assigning a very confusing task. Listener, your job is to listen to my fast instructions, and the moment I stop, you must say out loud, "Could you run that by me one more time?" Get your voice ready. Here we go. All right, so the client wants us to shift the entire layout of the presentation by tomorrow morning, which means we need to swap slide 4 with slide 10 and completely rewrite the executive summary before the noon deadline.
Beautifully done. I hope you felt the power in that phrase. You're not begging for help. You're professionally requesting that the data be run past you again.
Exactly. Wow, looking back, I realized I wasn't as lost as I thought in all those old meetings. I just lacked the specific tool to pause the conveyor belt. If I had just practiced saying that phrase out loud in my bedroom 10 times, my entire corporate experience would have been different.
Let us do one final round in our simulator. This time, we're going to practice the confirmation check. This is for when you understand the first part but lose the thread at the end. The phrase you need to speak out loud is, "Just to make sure I understand, you want me to wait here?"
Ooh, that is a good one. It is short, practical, and very common. Just to make sure I understand, you want me to wait here.
Exactly. I'm going to pretend to be a very busy receptionist at a doctor's office. I'm going to give you a bunch of fast instructions about filling out forms, but the only thing you really need to confirm is whether you should sit in the waiting room. Listener, when I finish my fast sentence, use your phrase. Here we go. Okay, I need you to fill out these 3 clipboards, front and back, sign the privacy policy on the bottom line, and then I need your insurance card and a photo ID, and then you can just grab a seat over there by the window until the nurse calls your name.
Brilliant. You summarized the confusion into one simple clarifying question. You took control of the chaos.
If you participated in all 3 of those simulator rounds, you have fundamentally changed your relationship with fast English. You have stopped being a victim of speed, and you have become an active navigator of the conversation.
It is incredibly empowering. It's the shift from passive listening, where the language just happens to you, to active communication, where you steer the ship. You do not have to be perfect. You just have to be brave enough to ask for the missing piece.
Tomorrow, I have a specific challenge for you. I challenge you to catch yourself in the middle of a fake smile and nod. Notice the tension in your stomach. Notice your eyebrows raising. And the moment you realize you're faking it, take a breath, drop the smile, and use one of the phrases you practiced today.
And to hold yourself accountable, we want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever done the fake smile and nod? Tell us about a time you pretended to understand someone, but use the vocabulary from today. Write a sentence that starts with, "I lost the thread when." For example, I lost the thread when my taxi driver started talking about local politics.
We read every single comment, and we love seeing you apply these natural phrases to your own life stories. Now that you know how to safely interrupt a fast conversation, your next step is to train your ear so you don't have to interrupt as often. Click the video on your screen right now about linking words in fast English. It will decode exactly why native speakers sound so fast in the first place. Keep practicing, keep speaking out loud, and we'll see you in the next episode.